Contagious attachers. Now it's only fair I do it for avoidants as well. So here are 10 good things about avoidant attachers. Number 1, avoidants are super independent and self-reliant. This is actually a really attractive quality, at least it is to me, because there is nothing more unattractive to me than the feeling that someone needs me or is like super clingy on me or needs all my time and attention, or they're going to die without me. Avoidants are very good at understanding that you are your autonomous self and I am my autonomous self. We have two independent lives. And they also like to foster that autonomy. Like when an avoidant is in a relationship with you, they don't want you to lose yourself inside of the relationship. They want you to continue to be your independent self and focus on the things that you love in your life, because they find that to be a really attractive quality because it's important to them. Number 2, avoidants tend to be really hard workers and have a really great work ethic. And I think this often stems from the fact that in childhood, they knew that nobody was like coming to their rescue or necessarily meeting their needs, and so they have had to make it on their own in this world. Because of that, they know that nobody else is going to financially support them. Nobody else is taking care of them. They have to do it themselves if they're going to get anywhere in life. And so they have a really strong view of success and like making it, right? And so they work really, really hard in their careers, in their jobs, and they are often the person in their job that is looked to like as a leader or for advice. They are always showing up on time. They are never leaving early. They are never like stealing from their job or doing shit like that. Like they are very reliable when it comes to work. Number 3, avoidants have a lot of interests, which makes them interesting people. They don't tend to sit around all day like watching TV. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because that's what I like to do, but they have a lot of interests. There are a lot of things that they're involved in. They're probably involved in a lot of like sports or activities or hobbies. Like there's a lot of things that they love to do, and they can bring that stuff into the relationship and make it fun. For instance, my ex had so many talents. He was good at so many things. Like he was good at pretty much every sport. He played baseball, he played basketball, he was a really great skateboarder, he played disc golf, he was in a band, he was a drummer, a really good drummer, he was a carpenter. Like they have a ton of interests and they are usually good at every single one. Number 4, avoidants tend to have a better sense of like regulating emotions. They are often like the calming presence in the storm. At least that's how my ex was. When I would be like freaking the fuck out because like I got a flat tire or something, he would be very logical and practical in the moment, and I always felt like I could rely on him as that calming presence to just like handle the situation and not freak out. They tend to be able to weather the storm because that's what they had to do in childhood in order to survive. Like their home lives were very chaotic and they kind of just had to learn to, you know, repress things and just weather the storm. So they are very good at that in their relationship. They're also not going to rely on you to regulate their emotions, which if you've ever been with someone who relies on you to regulate their emotions, it can be very draining. Number 6, I truly believe that avoidants are some of the most cuddly, goofy, and silly people. And I think the reason for this is because when it comes to like love languages, which I know that people have kind of debunked, but just for the sake of this video, I think that it's harder for avoidants to vocalize the way that they feel because there's a lot of vulnerability in having to put words to it. So they're better at like almost like acting it out, like the physical acts of like showing affection. Avoidants can be really good at showing affection in those like silly, cute, goofy ways. I've heard that actually from a lot of people, and that's how my ex was, like very good at like cuddling and like, you know, just having those cute moments of like, you know, big spoon, little spoon, or like tickling me, or just like being fun. All moments with him were usually just like silly and fun. Like he was never like a wet blanket. Like he was just very sweet and adorable. And I think that a lot of avoidants are like that because it's harder for them to come out and be vulnerable and tell you everything that they feel, but sometimes they're better at showing it. Number 7, avoidants are also good at acts of service. Like they really like to show their love by doing practical things for you. For instance, like any time that I needed help in the relationship, he would be there in an instant. Like he would always pick up his phone if I needed help with something. Like after my apartment fire, he was instantly there for me. He helped my landlord clean up. I was able to stay with him at his place. Like he was so helpful in those moments. I constantly had car problems and he was just very logical and practical in these moments, being able to help me out. I've talked about how he like built me this beautiful cedar coffee table. Like, they really like to do these logical and practical acts of service for you, because they might struggle to show love in other ways, like writing you love notes or being able to give you these flowery compliments, but they do show love in the ways that they know how. Number 8, avoidants can be very like resourceful, because I think that they have always had to be. And so, like, again, in these moments where something might go wrong, like practically, maybe like car problems, something goes wrong in the house, they're very resourceful. Like, they're able to come up with a way to figure it out, come up with a decision, come up with a logical conclusion. Like, they are just very like self-sufficient and resilient and resourceful in that way. Number 9, avoidants have a really good sense of boundaries in the relationship, which is something that anxious people really struggle with. Anxious people tend to not have many boundaries at all. And avoidant people do have a sense of boundaries. And, it's a good thing to have some space between two people in a relationship and have some time to miss each other. But both people tend to take it a little too far and start triggering each other into the gap becoming wider and wider. But avoidants do have a good sense of boundaries, and they are not going to invade your boundaries, and they are not going to overwhelm you with things, and they are not going to make you feel, they're not going to intrude. You know what I mean? Like, they have a good sense of like, this is you, this is your life, this is your autonomy, and I'm not going to intrude on your autonomy. Number 10, when things are good with an avoidant, they are really fun to be around. There is such an endearing side to avoidant people. Like, they have this almost like contagious confidence about them that just draws you near to them and makes you feel super attracted to them. And they can be some of the most funny, fun, silly people that, are lighthearted. They don't take themselves too seriously. And, I really like that about avoidant people.